Do you know if your dog actually sees you as family? Most owners assume the answer is yes, but here's what most people don't realize. There's a difference between a dog who loves you and a dog who is genuinely bonded with you at the level that science defines as family attachment. And the signs that reveal which one is true are not the dramatic ones. Not the jumping, not the tail wagging, not the way they greet you at the door. The real signs are quieter, more specific. And almost every owner walks past them every single day without understanding what they're actually seeing. Let's start with the one that changes everything. 1. They use you as their safe base, not just their comfort. Have you ever taken your dog somewhere new, a park they've never been to, a friend's house, a new street on a walk, and noticed how they behave? Some dogs dart out confidently to explore. Others hang back near their owner. And most owners read the confident explorer as the better adjusted dog, the one who is more secure, less anxious, more independent. The research says something different. Topal, Miklosi, Sani, and Doka published their landmark attachment study in the Journal of Comparative Psychology in 1998, applying the strange situation test, the same method used to assess infant caregiver attachment to 51 dog owner pairs. What they found was that dogs use their owners as a secure base from which to explore unfamiliar environments in exactly the same way that securely attached infants use their mothers. The securely bonded dog explores freely when their owner is present and noticeably reduces that exploration when the owner leaves. The owner's presence isn't just comforting, it's enabling. It's what makes confidence possible. Horn, Huber and Range confirmed this secure base effect in a 2013 study published in PLOS ONE, finding that dogs were significantly more willing to engage with challenging tasks and unfamiliar objects when their owner was present than when they were absent or replaced by a stranger. The presence of the owner wasn't a nice addition. It was a functional prerequisite for the dog's willingness to engage with the world. So the dog who ventures out confidently at the park and periodically glances back to check that you're still there, that dog is not anxious. That dog is securely attached. You are their base. And knowing you're there is what makes everything else feel safe enough to approach. That's not dependence. That's exactly what family means to a dog's nervous system. And the fact that they look back for you instead of just running forward without a second thought is one of the most meaningful things they'll ever show you. 2. Your voice activates their reward center even when you're saying nothing important. Here's something most dog owners have never heard about their own dog's brain. When you talk to your dog, something specific and measurable happens in their neural chemistry. And the research that revealed it should change how you think about every conversation you've ever had with them. Gabor, Andix, Miklosi, and colleagues at Eötvös-Loránd University published a study in NeuroImage in 2021 that used fMRI brain imaging on fully awake, unrestrained dogs to measure how their brains responded to different speakers. Dogs listened to praising speech and neutral, meaningless speech from both their owner and a control person, someone familiar but not their primary caregiver. The results were specific and striking. Dogs showed greater neural activity in the caudate nucleus, the brain's primary reward center, in response to their owner's voice than to the control person's voice. And critically, this wasn't only true for praise. Even neutral speech from the owner words with no positive content, no emotional warmth activated the reward center more than the same neutral speech from someone else. This means your voice itself is the reward, not what you're saying, not the tone you're using. The simple fact that it's you speaking activates the same area of your dog's brain that lights up for food, play, and positive reinforcement. The researchers described this as analogous to what happens in human infants, whose auditory and reward responses are modulated by whether the voice belongs to their mother. Gakshi, the last author, explained it directly. In dogs, just like in infants, not only positive interactions with the caregiver, but even listening to their neutral voice is rewarding. You don't have to be saying anything particularly meaningful for your dog's brain to treat the sound of you as a good thing happening. You just have to be the one saying it. That's not a trained response. That's the neural signature of family. And hey, if this is already changing how you see your relationship with your dog, hit like and subscribe. We want to reach every dog owner who deserves to understand the bond their dog has been building with them all along. 3. They remember your shared history, not just your routines. Does your dog seem to know things they shouldn't know? Do they anticipate events before the obvious cues appear? Do they respond to places, people, or objects from your shared past in ways that suggest they remember specific experiences rather than just conditioned associations? That's because they do. For years, the scientific assumption was that dogs live in the present, that they respond to immediate cues and conditioned patterns. but don't retain episodic memories the way humans do. That assumption has been progressively dismantled by research on canine cognition. Claudia Fugaza and Adam Miklosi at Eötvös-Loránd University developed an experimental method called Do As I Do, a procedure that tests whether dogs can recall and reproduce actions they observed a human perform after a delay. The results, published across multiple studies in journals, including Current Biology and Scientific Reports, confirmed that dogs can recall specific episodes from their past, not just general procedures. Fugaza's research found that dogs retain memories of observed human actions for at least an hour, and that these memories were spontaneous and incidental rather than deliberately rehearsed. The dogs weren't trying to remember, they just did, the same way you remember a specific afternoon from 5 years ago without having studied it. Episodic memory, the currency of shared history. What this means for your relationship is significant. Your dog doesn't just know your routine. They carry memories of specific moments you shared the walk where something unexpected happened, the afternoon you spent on the floor together, the time you came home differently than usual. They're not running a pattern matching program against your behavior. They're living inside a history that belongs to both of you, and every new experience you share becomes part of that history, part of what they are, part of what you mean to them. 4. They read your face and they look to it when they're unsure. Has your dog ever done something in a new situation and then immediately looked at your face before deciding how to respond? Maybe they heard a strange sound and looked at you. Maybe they encountered an unfamiliar person and checked your expression before deciding whether to approach. That split-second glance is one of the most scientifically significant things a dog can do, and most owners barely notice it. It's called social referencing, and it's something that, before dogs, researchers thought was uniquely human. Mirala, Prato Pravid and Marshall Pessini published research in Animal Cognition in 2012, demonstrating that dogs engage in social referencing with their owners in exactly the way human children do with their parents, looking toward their caregiver when faced with an ambiguous situation, and then adjusting their behavior based on the emotional signal they receive. Dogs shown an unfamiliar object modified their approach behavior based on whether their owner displayed a positive or negative expression toward it. They weren't just reading the room, they were specifically reading you. And research from the Budapest Family Dog Project, led by Adam Miklosi across decades of published studies, has established that this gaze toward the human is one of the defining cognitive features of dogs as a species. Unlike wolves, dogs' closest genetic relatives, dogs follow human gaze, respond to human pointing, and look to human faces for social information in ways that no other animal consistently does. This ability appears to have developed specifically across the tens of thousands of years that dogs and humans have lived together. It's not just a learned behavior. It's something dogs evolved to do because it was, and is, the most important social information available to them. When your dog looks at your face in a moment of uncertainty, they're not just looking, they're asking. And the fact that your face is where they go for the answer tells you something specific about what you are to them. 5. They adjust their emotional state to match yours without being asked. Have you ever noticed that on your worst days your dog seems different? Quieter, closer, less interested in play, and more interested in just being near you. You didn't tell them anything was wrong. You didn't behave dramatically differently. But they know. And the way they respond in those moments is one of the most consistent and most emotionally powerful signs of genuine family attachment. Researchers at Queen's University Belfast, led by Clara Wilson, published a study in PLOS ONE in 2022 confirming that dogs can detect human psychological stress through scent alone, distinguishing between samples taken from the same person in a baseline state and in an acute stress state, with over 93% accuracy. Before you've changed your expression, before your behavior has shifted in any obvious way, your dog has already read your body's chemical output and updated their assessment of your emotional state. But detection is only half of it. What dogs do with that information is where the family attachment becomes visible. Research reviewed in Applied Animal Behavior Science has consistently found that dogs don't passively register human emotional states, they respond to them. More specifically, they show what behavioral researchers call emotional contagion, the transfer of emotional state across individuals in a social group. Your dog doesn't just know you're stressed, they feel it with you. And when they press against you, or stay closer than usual, or bring you something, or simply refuse to leave the room where you are that's not performance, that's a social animal responding to a family member's distress in the only way available to them. The thing about family is that you don't just live with each other. You carry each other's states. You go up and down together. You're affected by what happens to the other person in a way you're not affected by what happens to strangers. That's what your dog is doing every time they read you without being told anything and respond to what they find. 6. When you leave, something real happens, and when you come back, it resolves. The final sign is the one that is simultaneously the most obvious and the most misunderstood. What happens to your dog when you're not there? Most owners don't see this because they're not there to see it. And for many dogs, the signs are subtle enough that they go unnoticed even when owners do return. But the research that has captured this in real time, with physiological measures, is some of the most emotionally significant science in the entire body of dog behavior literature. Topal and colleagues' 1,998 strange situation test established that dogs show measurable distress during separation from their primary caregiver and immediate relief upon reunion in patterns that map directly onto secure attachment in human infants. Thielke and Udell at Oregon State University extended this research across multiple studies between 2017 and 2020, confirming that secure attachment behavior in dogs is specifically oriented toward the primary owner rather than toward familiar people in general. The effect is not about familiarity, it's about bond. But the Garber et al. 2021 fMRI study adds a layer to this that most people have never considered. More attached dogs showed a greater neural reward response to their owner's voice in the caudate nucleus, meaning the dogs who had built the strongest bonds experienced the greatest neurochemical payoff simply from hearing their person. The bond doesn't just affect behavior at departure and reunion, it's wired into the reward architecture of the dog's brain. You are, for your dog, a source of neurological reward that activates the same circuitry as food and play not because of what you provide, but because of who you are to them. That is what family means in biological terms. Not just love in the abstract, a specific person encoded into the reward system of another creature's brain. A presence whose absence registers as a loss worth tracking, and whose return resolves that loss immediately and completely. Your dog isn't waiting for you to come home because they're hungry or bored or habituated to a routine. They're waiting because your return resolves something real that your absence creates. And every day you walk back through that door, you're fulfilling a need that no other creature on earth could fill in exactly the same way. That's not ownership, that's family. And your dog has known it for a long time. Now you do too.